welcome to Michigan Theater and Film Talk. I am your host, Jeff Tamakis, and as always, I want to remind you that we are available on Apple and Android podcasts, as well as searchable on Facebook. If you go to our page, Michigan Michael Chekhov Classes M2C2, and like our page, you will be the first to notified when we release videos like this. Also, if you go to YouTube at Michigan Chekhov and subscribe, you will also be the first to notified. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, and share it with everyone you've ever known, will know, or know right now immediately. Thank you very much. We had so much fun that James and I decided to do a part 2 of this interview. So we're doing part 2. I'm with James Kuhl, who is the producing artistic director of Tipping Point Theater, and let's get right to it.
Yeah.
Producing artistic director. Of a theater. Mm-hmm. That is quite a title.
Yeah, that's a long one. They've run out of space on all of the forms that want title. I always have to abbreviate.
Yeah, you have to go down
and
maybe
around the corner.
So what is that like? How does that differ from a normal artistic director, or just an artistic director? I guess.
Right. Essentially, what it is that I think in a typical balance, or a more traditional balance of the theater, that there would be the financial end, so the managing director, and then the artistic director, and probably the development director. Like those would be the triumvirate of directors. Then the executive director rules them all.
had one ring to rule them all.
Right. And so essentially what the producing artistic director does is combining both the jobs of the artistic director and the managing director. So it ends up being, the left brain and the right brain just existing in the same skull.
That's a pretty good role for you, though, because you are, having known you for so many years, a long time.
Yep, over a decade now. Yep.
I'm so old.
We've earned our
great. That's why I've shaved, because I was like, who's that old man looking at me? Get out of here, old man. That's quite a title.
Yeah. I always think about, so we get our the audit every single year, and when we first started getting in the audit, we're literally half the size that we are now. We've doubled in staff. Our annual budget has doubled, but the first time that we did it, there wasn't as many people working or doing things at the theater, and the auditor sat down with me and he's like, "So James, who writes the checks?" "Oh, I do." And like, "Oh, and who hires the people?" "I do." Who decides how much they get paid?" "I do."
"Who cleans the toilets?"
"Sometimes I do." And he's like, "Well, who does the bank reconciliation?" "I do." "Who deposits the money?" "I do." Like, "Who picks the plays?" "I do." And like, you could see like he wanted to write something down, and he got to the point, he's like, "Okay." And he just didn't write anything down.
This got crazy.
Yeah, like, "James, let's talk about checks and balances with this." I'm like, what do you mean?" I'm like, you could just take all of the money and go. I'm like, "Yeah, but why would I do that?" It's like, "Well, I don't want to tell you how to do that." I'm like, "No, but I don't understand. Why would I do that?" This is a job and a position in a theater that I've dreamed about for a very, very long time, and why would I do that? Also, you've seen the bank account, so again, why would I do that?
I can get away with tens of dollars.
Right. So essentially, with the producing artistic director, that's what it is. Both responsible for all of the daily operations and the financial aspects of it, as well as the development and execution of all of the product of the artistic sides of things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that is a real benefit, because I can think like, I want to do this artistically, and the other side of my brain is like, yeah, James, but it's going to cost this amount. And
I
like,
just picture like two little yous sitting on your shoulder, and one of them is wearing a beret, and he's the artist, and going, "Hey, you should do this show, yes." And then you have the little accountant guy with the glasses and the tie and the little number sign. You know, that's too expensive, James.
yeah, no, but those two those two sides exist on both ends, and where it can be a real benefit is that I can go like, no, I know all of the numbers. I know where all of the money is going, and I know that we are protected to make this artistic to invest in this particular area in order to make this happen. Or I also know like, yeah, things are tight, and this is not the time to make that particular artistic investment. So let's go back to the drawing board and find a more creative way of navigating this particular obstacle.
Wow. So there's a lot of you arguing with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. All the time. All the time. And it can be really, really difficult because one side of it, the artistic side of it, is based so much on the people and the artists and the desire to to give as much as I can to those individuals, because nobody is in this to make for the big bucks, and every single buck that you give to the artist is valued and worthwhile. So like that, there's that empathetic side, and then there's the numbers side, and numbers have no emotion whatsoever.
I don't know. I'm watching you 4.
That's right.
4 seems like an angry number. I don't know why.
Right,
I don't like his look.
Well, oh no, there was a very bad dad joke that came up because you want to watch out for 7 more than 4, because 7, 8, 9.
Oh my
See?
God!
No, that's terrible.
And
It's terrible.
no one ever watched our videos again. This was the end. Everyone unsubscribed from the podcast at that very moment. I'm sorry. I apologize. That is pretty funny though.
Yeah, that's debatable. But numbers aren't. They're not emotional. Like the numbers say you can afford this many equity actors at this price, and that would mean that you only have this many roles available at the non-equity rate. Like that sort of like balance of, if I want to be able to afford the season and the administrative staff, then the numbers say I have to average 4 actors per show. That's what you can afford. And it doesn't care, like, oh, but this is a fantastic 8-person play. The numbers are, I don't care. You can afford 4. And that sort of war, between both sides. On one end, it's great because we can compromise. We can compromise or find some solutions to things. But on the other side, it it just sort of it can be really, really difficult not being able to have the type of freedom that I think if you're doing it responsibly and you're doing it correctly, to keep the business open and still do the artistic work that you want to just throw all of the money in the world at is a challenge.
Can I ask you some? Maybe this might be something you might not want to divulge, but how much does it cost you to hire one equity actor for one show?
And these, I don't mind sharing it because this is all public, information. Like a lot of times with the numbers, it's very public if you know certain things. So tipping point is an SPT4. And so the minimum amount that an SPT4 actor is, and I used to know this much better, but now that we have a company manager, like some of these numbers slip a little bit. I'm going to say $392. That's what I'm going to say per week, but that's not the full cost. It's $392 is the wages that end up paying to the equity actor. On top of that, the theater owes the health and pension. So the health payment per actor per week is $162, and pension is 8% of the weekly salary. So just to make numbers, round, if we round that up to 400, 8% of 400 is going to be well, 1% would be $32. So $32 plus $162, that's $195 plus the 400. So we'll just round it off, $600 a week. So the cost of the theater now is at $600 a week, plus the taxes that you have to pay into the federal, into the federal government for any employee. Probably add another 8% on top of that. So we'll round it to to 650.
All right, 650 times, and how many weeks are
600
they working for?
So 3 weeks of rehearsal, 5 weeks of performance at the typical. So 8 weeks. So $600 a week, 8 weeks, $5,000.
It's a lot. That can be a lot of money for
$5,000
a small theater.
For one actor. So that's for one actor. And so typically speaking, then you're going to have 2 equity actors, or about 50% of it, plus the equity stage manager that goes into it. And so just for the cost to the theater, you're in the ballpark for those contracts to start off with, before you pay any of the royalties or go to the set or the non-equity actors, the other costs that go into it. At $15,000 is where that ends up starting. And that's the unemotional side of things, And as I'm going through it, there's this little part of me that's going like James, should you be sharing these things? But those numbers exist online anywhere.
Yeah. So $15,000. Do you find that
Per production.
Per production. So overall, and you do how many productions per year?
6 productions.
So 6 productions per year times 15,000 is.
So that's 60,000 plus 30,000, $90,000, $100,000.
$100,000 just to be an equity theater in Michigan.
And that's just to do 2-person plays.
Just to do
a
2-person equity. Now you do pay your non-equity actors.
Yep.
On top of that. So.
Correct. The thing that we're shooting for there is we're trying to get to the same rate. Like I am very envious, and I applaud very, very much the theaters that are able to pay the non-equity rate at the same rate as the equity. The only but they don't get the health and pension benefits of it. But that's not the case with us. We're working on it, but they still get paid for rehearsals and performances.
Yeah. So do you find that that hinders you from hiring everyone that you would like, or what is your feeling about?
Well, it doesn't hinder me from hiring the people I like. I think that all of the people that I hire are people I like. So
yeah, maybe that's a poorly phrased question. But I'm thinking about it in terms of I want to be a professional actor in Michigan.
Yes.
And I personally am. Right? I'm a professional actor, teacher, and director living in Michigan. But it can be difficult to justify a lot of actors staying in the area because they get their equity card and then the work goes.
Well, I think I've seen there are a handful of artists that I have seen that transition from the non-equity to the equity without hitting that particular desert. I think that they refer to it in
the desert,
the desert of work when crossing over into the union status, and the fact that terminology even exists or that experience exists is disheartening, in a lot of ways, because again, as a professional theater, as a professional artist myself, I wore my the shirt like
artwork is work.
Yeah.
Supporting the artist means paying the artist. That's
right.
The shirt.
Yeah.
In case you're listening, that James has worn. So you obviously feel strongly about that.
I feel very strongly about it, and that's that battle that ends up happening in being responsible for both of those aspects of the job that the desire to pay artists more and to get more into there, but also balancing the needs of the organization financially or overall is something that is at odds, with it. And it can be difficult because on the days that I need to, cut costs or to pinch pennies so we can exist next year, are the days where that I want to pay artists more because I know that they need it. It's a really large. It can be a very big responsibility. I see it as a big responsibility that I have in order to be sure that we are financially stable and we make choices to ensure that the theater, that tipping point, exists next year for the artists in the community to have a place to work. If I start to make it, I want to say if I make it more about me and just the passion projects that I want to do, and say I don't care about how much it costs or the number of people that are going to be here, and we do this great show, and that show ends up closing the doors. It was about me doing a passion project, and in doing that one passion project, it probably wouldn't be one, but one passion project wouldn't break us. But the consistency of that methodology, in closing down the theater, got me that passion project, but it lost the community a very valuable commodity for the community to make a living doing artistic theatrical work here in Michigan.
Yeah, certainly. You're talking about a lot of things that have actually happened in our community. There have been there have been artistic directors who've run off with all of the theater's money. That has happened in our community. There have been theaters that have huge overhead, that have a large expense, and the artistic directors they hired chose to do their own passion projects, better designed for smaller theaters, and as a consequence, bankrupted or almost bankrupted those theaters.
This is one of the things that I would, that I would caution anybody in bringing up, these types of things. Like I won't deny, yes, that there are elements of that exist that have existed in our history as a community. But it's one of the lessons that I learned when I started very, very quickly, is that it's very difficult. I admonished the 20-year-old me that sat in a bar with my whiskey, 21-year-old me, the 20-something-year-old me that sat in the bar with the whiskey with friends commiserating over, this person shouldn't, if I was running the theater, this wouldn't happen, and why are they making these particular choices? Within the first few months, there were a number of individuals or conversations that I wanted to take back or to apologize for, because when you walk that mile in the shoes of knowing all of the things that go into these particular choices, I've become far more understanding and cautious about that glass house type of situation, or to judge too harshly the choices that are made, because they're difficult choices. I want to hire the best the artists that I want to hire, and if that means that I need an entire season that is 100% equity actors, I can't do that. Or if I were to do that, that choice has that choice will have financial consequences to us. Or I guess to say that we're not in that place yet. I want to be in that place. We're working towards being in that place, but in order to get there, we have to make tough choices, and that means the rates in which we pay and contract artists, and we do what we can. The people that have worked there for a long period of time know that every year, like I do what I can, and if it doesn't go up, then I couldn't. It's not because I'm trying to get more money for the theater or anything. It's just I couldn't, in balancing all of the different things that go into it. And so our budgets are for an entire show are in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $60,000, depending on the
and so you're saying that fully 25% of that budget goes into hiring 2 actors.
Yes.
And a stage manager.
And a stage
manager, of course. And by the way, the stage manager is God and the most important person that you can have in any show. A good, competent stage manager is invaluable and often the unsung heroes of any production. And your stage manager is?
Tracy Spada has been with us before I there. Yeah, she's been there for the all
she's amazing.
She is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and would you say that a lot of fires were put out by her, or how would you define Tracy as far as the importance to your theater?
I don't know how to encapsulate that into
maybe interpretive dance.
There might be more of an interpretive thing. Tracy would appreciate my interpretive dance.
All right. Okay. I get it.
But this goes to something that I want to say that's also in the Purple Rose model, but the investment of long term versus the one-offs. A lot of times with I think a lot of productions that this group of strangers gets together once a year and then they're off. There isn't the longevity of those actors being in every single one of the shows. That's sort of like ongoing working relationship. Whereas take like even you go to the mechanics, they have 3 or 4 of them in there, and they work together, and they're there for that longevity of the time. But the challenge with the artist is that there's this quilt work that you have to put together. I have to patch this little chunk of money with this little chunk of money and this little chunk of money to make that quilt in order to have that sort of career. And the tools of like commercial work and voiceovers and things like that help make up that particular quilt work. But in the instance of like the Purple Rose that has more of the company model is a beautiful, envious thing that they're taking care of the artists that are there in the company over the course of a season. That's not just looking at it like this one particular show. They're caring for the artists, and they have the ability, or the aesthetic and the model for them is to take care of the artist, a good chunk of the artists, not just for this one show, but over the course of the entire season. Not dissimilarly, Stratford is that company, taking care of the artists over the course of the particular season. And with that, you get the benefit of the common knowledge. You get the benefit of the historical knowledge of the particular
how each other works,
but also what the stories of how it went last time, so we can learn from it. So we go into this time, and that one for me shows that real investment in the artists over the course of the time. And even at the Rose, it's not like a 100% 365 days a year type of thing for
they have a core company, and then they hire itinerantly for certain shows.
And even within that core company, there's that everybody isn't in every single show, or isn't understudying every single show, but there is that commitment to, we want to take care of a bigger part of the quilt for you. And it comes into a little phrase that came from a friend of ours, Matt Foss, that I love and I keep as one of my philosophical things, is investing in people, not props. like there will, investing in the, I'm sorry, prop designers, that sounded, I'd use it for the alliteration, not because I'm cheaping on props.
And every prop designer showed up to Michigan Michael Chekhov classes in protest with very amazing signs. Like the signs were incredibly built. Wow! But it was a very nasty experience personally.
But it's the idea that if we invest in our artists, if we invest in the people that are working for us, the product that is going to come out both in the short term and in the long term is going to be better and more rewarding and healthier. And so that, to come back to it, to try and encapsulate, because I don't have the one, a one phrase for the value of Tracy and having Tracy at our organization for as long as she has. But there's so much value that comes into investing in the people that you work with the most. And this comes down to the staff members for me that work at Tipping Point, and the apprentices that come in, because like we do now, we're up to 3 apprentices every single season, and not all apprentices are created equal. It's not always going to be a good fit, but it's not giving up on them. It's not taking an easy route of saying you made this mistake and therefore you're out, apprentice. Don't worry, apprentices. Don't worry. But it's going like this is where we are as a evolution. This is where you are, apprentice, as an evolution, as an artist. And if we are committed to the apprenticeship, things are going to happen, and then we're going to learn from them and continue to grow forward, as opposed to like that's the mistake and out you go. But it comes to the investment of the people and trying to work towards investing in them and taking care of them for as long as you can as an organization, and not burning them out.
You want them to continue doing theater, not I will never do theater again after that.
But it's continuing in a healthy way. And I think that there's the metaphor or simile, I don't know, I'm not an English major,
Okay.
of the goldfish, that the goldfish doesn't have that part in their brain that tells them that they're full. So they will continue to eat until they explode. And for us, I think as artists, there's a very big trap of being the goldfish, and the food is work. That we work ourselves to a point that we explode. And if there's always, if it's always there, and you're constantly, going, burnout is a very real thing that we all have to figure out how to manage.
I think, if I may say so, I think you tend to get that, a lot of that from working at the Hillberry. Because at the time we were there, it was rep. I don't know if it's still, I don't think it's rep anymore.
No.
But when it was rep, I used to say, I love French fries, but I don't think that I could eat French fries for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all the time for 3 years. And that was what it was like. It was like your favorite food, but it was all the time for 3 years, and sometimes you got grumpy about it.
Yeah. And I think that with that,
not that it wasn't a great experience, because it was
absolutely
great.
Well, and I think the flip side of that, and I think that this is the case of anything that is really rewarding or will help you grow as an artist, is that there's a certain amount of endurance that has to go into it. And so the Hillberry and doing the shows in the rep was very much a part of a benefit of it, was that sense of a crucible, that there's that you go through this process to burn off the things that you don't really need or aren't essential to you, and to endure that to get to the other side of it is a very rewarding process, like climbing Mount Everest.
Yes, and listen to our last podcast where we talk in depth of
Climbing
the
Mount
metaphorical Mount Everest of being an artist in theater, and that's a great segue into something that I wanted to mention and talk to you about. You were the guy that I talked to before I even started this project. I do other videos, and if you want to see my other videos, please go to YouTube at Michigan Checkoff and subscribe, and you can see a whole bunch of other videos. But in one of those videos, I was talking a little bit about the Detroit actor or the Michigan actor,
right.
and I posted it on Facebook, and you're my Facebook friend, and you're like, so you were gonna do a video on what is the Michigan actor, and you're the guy who did that, and my answer, which I didn't respond to, but I'm like, I have no idea what the Michigan actor is. I've been gone for 7 years. I was here from 2003 to 2011, left for 7 years, came back, and everything was more or less the same as how I left it, and I wanted to be a part of helping the community in whatever way I could, but I had no idea what the Michigan actor is, and that's an important thing, because when you're trying to highlight somebody or trying to raise somebody up, it's important to know what the heck you're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
And the only way I thought of to kind of get to the bottom of this is by talking to people like you, and talking to most of which are my friends that I've known for a long time. So I've met some new people on this journey, and it's been great, and I hope to meet new people some more. If you're interested in being interviewed, don't hesitate to drop me a DM, and I'll be happy to put your name down and bring you out to talk with me for an hour. But
or make sure that you continue to be a part of the conversation by subscribing.
Yes, thank you. Oh, you're so good.
I try.
But that's the goal here. And when I talk about, talk to you, I've been kind of leading you in this direction this entire conversation. I don't know if you know, I'm not very subtle. But one thing I'm not. If you know me, I'm not subtle. But one of those things is, what is Michigan theater? Why should people try to be an artist here?
Well, I think one thing is after I posted that comment, because you were doing a series on videos, and I watch all of your videos. I think I'm one of the ones that always that likes it.
Thank you.
And you posed that question, and then your next video that came out, I think in that one video you said, like, but I'm not going to get into that right now. That's going to be another video, and then you continue.
Little did he know that was going to be a series of videos.
Right. And so when I posted the question, I think your response was, yes, that's going to be my next video. Like, it was a very confident sort of like, just wait. This is all a part of the plan.
That's typical me. Yeah.
But it's one of the things that I was really curious. That leading of the conversation. The leading of this particular conversation, because theater in general, and the mechanisms of theater, and the art and the craft of it, and how we do what it is that we do, is what it is that I talk way too much about. Like, a lot of times when I start talking, there comes that point with individuals where they sort of glass over a little bit, and like,
not with me. I love it.
Right. And that's why we go on for hours. Like you had mentioned the other video, the inside baseball stuff. That there comes a limit to the amount of that inside baseball that a lot of people will talk about. And so when questions like that arise, they're things that those are big questions that have been on my mind for a very long time. I mean, I was born in Michigan. undergraduate was in Michigan, then the Purple Rose Apprenticeship, and then Wayne State, and now Tipping Point. So I was born and raised and educated, and
so you're a Michigan product. You are Michigan theater in many ways. You embody that.
I don't
You
want. I don't,
say
I
that,
don't, I don't.
but
think
that's what a Michigan theater person would say.
Oh, that's such a Michigan theater person thing.
By denying it, you become more of the thing.
But the thing that I have found in my career and in my particular journey, as an artist, is that there were many, I don't want to say many, but there were a handful of times, and those are the pivotal times for me, that I was getting to the end of a position or a job, and the thought came to my mind, and we started talking as a family, like, well, this might be the time that we need to leave. Like, now that this opportunity is coming to an end, where do we go to? Do we go to Chicago, New York, LA? Mm-hmm. Like, is this this time that another opportunity isn't going to be there? And so every time that moment, sort of came up, the universe went like, and how about you stay and do this? How about you stay and do this? And so there's, I don't want to say it's a Al Pacino sort of like try to get out and they keep bringing me back in. I don't think that's it. But it's an interesting thing that when you start to get to the end of a big project or a big trajectory, and the first thought is like, well, I guess that was a good run, that I got to do what I love doing in the place that I grew up in around my family, but now I guess it's time to leave. Like that was always kind of like that first, like, where do I start to look? And whenever that happened, the universe went, no, there's more. No, you can stick around and you can do these things here.
I guess my experience is that, as particularly in the educational sector, you're almost groomed to leave Michigan as soon as you possibly can as an actor. That there is this either implied or overtly just said. Mm-hmm. Well, if you want to be a real true professional, you need to leave Michigan and you need to go to New York. We can help you with that. Let's have a showcase in New York. Okay, great. I mean, not that showcase is a bad idea. It's a great idea. You should get out there. You never know. But they have a million showcases in New York, right?
Well, I'll pull this, and this, I haven't given a whole lot of thought to this, but as soon as you mentioned it, like, this came up. So
sure.
This is an untested idea
that
I'm going to throw out there. But I think, like, the one time that I worked outside of Michigan, it was the summer before I went to the Hillberry, and I did summer stock in Champaign, Urbana. Like, they have a little there. And the main reason I committed to doing it was because I also auditioned for the graduate school that was there, and it was in hopes of getting known more and having a better shot at getting into that particular graduate program.
It's a very good graduate program.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't get into the graduate program, and then I was doing summer stock down there. But that was the one time that I really worked for a significant or a chunk of time on a show outside of Michigan. And the thing that I discovered was that everybody else was from somewhere else. That they came and there was this crossroads, and this was very much a normal part of their life. That they're coming from other areas and they're passing through, and they're like, this is the show I'm doing, and now I'm moving on to the next show in another part, another part of the country. And that sort of realization that it kind of goes along with, like, Michigan theater. Like, in Michigan theater, most everybody is from Michigan. Now, there are still, there are companies that have, hire people in and have designers and actors from other places, and that's absolutely wonderful. But for the most part, like, if you're going to do theater in Michigan, or you're going to leave in Michigan, if you look at the crossroads of things, you have to make the choice to stop going, left or right, and to travel up into the state. And the only way to get out of the state is to go back the way that you came. Mm-hmm. So it's not really, I want to say, as much of that sort of interstate, crossroads type of thing geographically. And so there's this sort of, like, I don't know, protected, feel, to the people that are here, and a lot of the people that are doing work here are from here.
But I'm actually not from here. This is the big secret. I'm from West Virginia, and I met my wife in Chicago, and she's from here,
Right.
so she brought me here.
Right.
But I feel like I've been a part of this community for a few years now. Like
And
it's
you
going
came
on
back
20.
here. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I came back here. Oh, you know, we thought we were gone forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I burned my winter clothes. I was like, well, I'm never coming back. Louisiana, here I come. And it was only through an accident, my wife getting this job that she got, that we came back. But
Accident or the magnetic power of
that pulled me back in.
Yeah, but,
you know,
you know.
but there is something to be said. I do feel like, you know, maybe this is obviously a place I'm supposed to be right now, and my feeling is, you know, I want to make it better. I always want to be a part of, you know, making everyone around me a little bit better. I guess that's just my nature, and I don't mean better in the way of like I have an idea of what better is, but you know, fulfilling their potential.
Yeah. So I'm with you there. To extrapolate a little bit further on this theory,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I'm just throwing out there. If you take a look at academia and the institutions and who the teachers are, and look at where is it that they came from, and if they came from outside of the state, and this is now where they are, I'm going to throw out this hypothesis that a vast majority of their experience is that of not of an insular go up into one place and stay there, but of that crossroads. You know, like if they're coming in from wherever,
And there's lots of benefits to those crossroads
Completely.
too. You get like sort of a mulligan stew of people who all make it a better, you know, tasting stew with new ideas and new concepts that people haven't heard before, and that's important too.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. But with the educational institution, like if you look at the experience, like when I teach, and this would be true for me, like when I teach from my experience, you know, and my point of view, and I say to you as the student, like, I don't know how to play, you know, your instrument. You're going to have to figure it out. This is how I play my instrument, and hopefully by trying to teach you how I see things and how I do things, you'll somehow, you know, find or figure out a step towards how it is that you play it. So I'm teaching from my experience, you know, for things. And so if you have teachers that are being hired outside of Michigan to, you know, to be, that could be the experience that they have, and that's the experience that they see how to do. You know, it's like, no, you can learn here in college, but then you have to go other places, and then maybe come back. You know, and maybe you do come back, and maybe you don't. But that's you know, finding that artistic home. So completely untested, but I think anyway that it has, you know, that has something to do with it. And not necessarily a malicious sort of like.
Well, I guess my
leave
argument,
Michigan because you can't do your craft here.
I guess my argument to counter that argument,
All right.
because this is what's fun about talking with
Right.
you, is that you don't see that conversation happening in Chicago, New York, or LA. Like nobody who's working in Chicago are saying you need to go outside of Chicago and then come back, and then you'll have enough experience to be able to really be a fully I don't know what you're saying, but a fully well-rounded artist. Nobody in New York is certainly not. They're not saying that in New York, and they're not saying that in LA. And maybe because they feel like, well, the world comes to us anyway.
Yeah.
But
Are they saying it in Des Moines?
Yeah.
Are they saying it in Atlanta? Are they saying it in Philadelphia? Because I agree with you. You're right. They're not. I don't think that they are saying it in Chicago or New York. And the real question is you know, should Detroit be saying it, or should Atlanta be saying it, or should Philadelphia?
Well,
be
maybe
saying
it's not
it?
an either or. Maybe it's you know, I have a video out called "Don't Leave Michigan."
Yeah, I've seen it.
And a lot of it.
I've liked it.
Oh, thank you. I do feel pretty strongly about this, that you should be able to stay and raise a family.
Yes.
Those things shouldn't be like mutually exclusive.
Yes.
You know, actors are human beings, And we have the same needs and desires of everyone else, and so much of acting, it's expected for you to live that itinerant lifestyle, that crossroads lifestyle.
Feel want and grief need friends. Like the old chestnut, King Edward. Oh shoot. No, I failed the test.
Okay, all
it's
right.
a Shakespearean quote.
Again, James, there is no test. If you want, I'll come. All right, I'll tell you what. I'll make up a test, and you can take it later.
Thank you.
But I do feel like, there's something also to be said for staying in the community, for making the community stronger, for going out and exploring. Go to Stratford for a year, be their intern if you can. I mean, or go to Oregon Shakes, or go. There's a lot of actors who do these things, but their home is always they're not transplanting, and there's a difference between transplanting and there's more Michigan actors in Chicago than there are in Michigan. Right, because a lot of them, they're like, well, it's the closest place, it's the biggest city, and I'm going to be happy in Chicago because there's going to be so much opportunity there. Well, yes, there is.
Yeah.
It's not an equity town, really. I mean, there's
a
not
lot more non-union work than.
There's a lot more non-union, so you can basically work your entire life in Chicago, never step on an equity stage, and be fulfilled artistically. Mm-hmm. But you're still going to need that day job, and maybe that day job becomes your life.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I think it's more possible for someone to have like a day job and build their theater career, and the people that stay end up being rewarded.
And I think that I mentioned this in the last video as well. I'm very cautious of a do and don't type of a list, and so like that sort of methodology of you need to go to New York or Chicago or LA is one of those, this is on the do list. Don't stay in Michigan. Do go to these these places, and I'm very cautious of it. I think that the strategy is that's where more work is. That's that's why people are saying these are the things that you need to do. But that's not taking into account what your particular goal is. If your particular goal is I want to be a working artist, that is not dependent on geography. Mm-hmm. If you want to be on Broadway,
you should be, well, yeah.
If I want
to be on Broadway, then you better go to Broadway.
If you want to work at the Steppenwolf, if that's the mountaintop for you, move to Chicago. If you want to be a working artist, or if you want to be an equity artist, like that's again, you look at what the specifics of those of those goals are. If you want to be a working equity actor, you can do that here. You can do that in Atlanta or Philadelphia.
At least in as much as you would be a working equity actor anywhere else.
That's exactly.
You're
right.
going to be unemployed as an equity actor unless you're lucky enough to become a company member someplace,
right?
Like at Steppenwolf, which they're just giving away.
Right,
you're a company member. You're a company member. You're a company member. And our answer to that is, well, we have the Rose, and they're not exactly giving those away either. I mean that entails hard work and luck to become a company member at a theater like that. But so you're going to find yourself as an equity actor.
You can. I mean, but there's lots of ways to achieve that goal, and to only say this is the only way that I can achieve that goal is really creating that tunnel vision to other particular possibilities. I had a student a number of years back that was really waffling as to which to go, because they were like, the rest of my class is going to New York, or they're going to Chicago. I really feel like I need to head out there. And I was like, well, what do you want to do out there? And like, well, I want to work as an actor. Would it help you to have your equity card before you go out there? Yeah. Wouldn't it be easier to get equity points by working here before you go out there? Yeah. Great, come and do the apprenticeship at Tipping Point, and let's start to build that particular process. And this individual then was with us for a year, is still in the community, and has worked more than anybody else in his class that all that ended up
they all went.
left. I think, I don't know that's the case, but even that sounds like a pretty judgy thing for me to say.
Well, by being anti-prescriptive, you are in fact being prescriptive.
This is what
that's the irony of of that whole thing is. But
I'm also being judgmental as to, in that particular statement, as to what it means to be, an artist. But doing one thing, the one thing that you want to do, or having one job over the course of the year, if you are fulfilled and expressing yourself as an artist, the quantity does not, matter.
That's true.
It might not matter.
There is a difference between being a performer, and an artist. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of actors who move to New York or LA to be artists and end up as a performer, which by artist I mean someone who has agency over their own work and able to express themselves artistically and are satisfied artistically and all that, and a performer being someone who goes job to job, is hired to do, maybe you're a chorus member in the musical and you clock in and you leave. And if that's your jam, man,
that's your jam.
Do that.
Yeah.
Do it for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
If you can find work doing that. I mean, my cousin, is a great singer, and he was working at the Met. He was at the Met, man.
Yeah. Yep.
And but he was like in the chorus of the Met, and after about 5 years, he was like, okay, now what? Yeah.
And I think that there's part of that. I mean, we were talking a little bit, before about this, particular stuff. It also has to do with where you are in your journey as an artist. And so for me, and I'll generalize this, but it only comes from having, now done it for maybe years, or how many years I've been working. Well, 97. But that's, my first acting class in undergrad. That's where I truly kind of put that demarcation of like, no, this is where my career started, in undergrad there. So that would have been 97. So trying to perfect my craft or get better at my craft, from that point moving on. And I went through, the first part of working at Tipping Point, and having the luxury of the job that I do, because I feel very blessed, to have it, because not many people do. Like maybe in Michigan, there are 8 people that have my job, like in the entire state.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not that many, and so I feel very, very blessed and honored to have it and to do it. But in the beginning, it was about the shows I wanted to do. It was about that, the material I wanted to work on and the way that I wanted to work on it. And it has evolved for me away from that. I mean, there's still like the material that we do and the plays and the work that we do is still important to me, but the importance and the focus has evolved for me away from that and more into things like this. It's about the people, and it's about the artists and the craft and the expression, and supporting that, having a place consistently for artists to have a fulfilling way to express themselves and to do their art, and to rejuvenate themselves in order to make for it. Like that becomes more and more important to me. Finding those artists and those kindred spirits that I understand their aesthetic bubble, they understand my aesthetic bubble, and we can support each other to make better work, and making sure that that Tipping Point and the organization is around to support that. It's about like the community, raising up the community, and it's less about like, no, I have my 12-person avant-garde production of Waiting for Godot that I'm going to do it, that no one will come and see. It's not about that. It's more about well, why you started, the Chekhov, the classes, to inspire artists to be artists again, to find ways to express yourself without getting, to rejuvenate yourself so you can survive that clock in, clock out, not worrying about the job that I have, but worrying about the job I need to get.
Yeah.
I know that was a big part of it, but that sort of evolution of it for me, as far as the focus, has both been rewarding and surprising. Because at the time I was like, no, it's always going to be about the plays that I want to do.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about that anymore.
That's great and incredible. Probably an incredible voyage for you.
Mm-hmm. It's not done yet.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't imagine myself when you're like, no, here are the list of the 25 plays that I need to do. When you get to the point like, no, it's less important that I do those shows, and more important that I work with you, or I work with this person, or I find a way. This person says that I've done this a number of times where artists that I believe in, they come to me and they say, James, I want to, I'd really love to try, sound design, but do you have any advice on how to do it? And I go, yeah, here, do it. And they're like, no, that's not what I meant. I'm like, pretty sure that this is what you meant. Like, you want to figure out how to do it.
Here it is.
Here it is. Do it, and let me help you do it. Like, I don't have all of the answers, but when you have a question, I will try and support you in some way. I've done that for playwrights. Like, I've had some playwrights that they say, I have this play. I'm like, great, let me pay actors. I'll have them read it for you. I want to let you know up front, I'm not going to consider it for for next season. That's not about what it is. I want to support you, and that means I will pay actors to read your play, and just let me sit in on it, and we'll talk about it. Mm-hmm. But so long as that's what it is that you want, then let me help you do that. And so I've done that a number of times, and I've done like artists coming to me and saying, like, I want this opportunity. Where do I find it? And I'm like, oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give this a go.
Well, we need more people like you. We need more. Wow. Again, it's been fantastic talking with you. I still feel like we have more to talk about, but that's what's great about being your friend. So whether it's here in front of the camera or just over a beer, I just love talking with you.
Yeah.
And again, this has been Jeff Tomakis for Michigan Michael Chekhov Classes and for Michigan Theater and Film Talk. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, whether you're watching it on Facebook or you're watching it on YouTube. Please do so. It really helps us out. And James, thank you for sitting in on this.
Yeah.
This has been hour 2 of this conversation that I've been having, and I feel like just call into work today.
That's right.
We'll just hang out. Come on, man.
Our 5-part miniseries.
We can just day drink through the day. We don't need to film it. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys later.